just want to start off by also asking for a quick round of applause for Bren and our Leaf Filter friends for lunch, because that was fantastic. It was super good. Big fan. Awesome. Thank you, thank you. So, see some familiar faces. A lot of you probably don't know much about us or what we do. This presentation will be very little about ArcSite, actually. It is more about the gutter industry and research and knowledge and being able to share that with you guys today. So we partnered up with a company called ResearchScape, and we polled thousands of homeowners and got as much data as we could about how they choose contractors, how they buy, what's important to them. So we're gonna share all of that information with you guys. There will be a little bit about ArcSite and then room for Q&A kind of stuff at the end. But hopefully some of this sheds a little bit of light on stuff. It's gonna lead into some of the other sessions as well, because there'll be a lot of stuff in here around marketing and financing and things of that nature. So hopefully that works out good for you guys. Some of the things we're gonna cover, if the presentation remote functions, there we go. Awesome. So we're gonna start just quick report overview, how people research contractors, lots of different topics today, but most of them pretty generic and should hit all of your businesses in some way, shape, or form. So some of you guys may know some of this, some of it may be very new to a lot of you guys, but hopefully it allows you guys to kind of work some of it into your business plan and adjust some strategies as you guys go. So like I said, we partnered up with ResearchScape. Over 1,000 homeowners were asked about their experience with contractors, how they chose them, what was important, things like that. I've had a lot of chance this week to chat with you guys about everything from your strategies to proving that some of this stuff is actually accurate. And from what I've heard over the last couple of days, especially the hockey game last night, a lot of this stuff seems to hit pretty close to home, which is great. So first thing off is starting with researching contractors. How many of you guys put marketing, like the bulk of your marketing, into like SEO or pay-per-click advertising? Who has any of it? Okay, so a very small amount in this room. So one thing to notice from up here is about 2/3 of all people rely strictly on search engines to be able to find their contractors. One of you guys last night told me that they think of it like a bait and a net. So they do things like, who here uses yard signs? Most of you. Who here wraps their vehicles? Right? They think of those things like the bait. They are things that warm people up to your company. They get your name out there. They allow people to be familiar with the work that you guys do, right? They think of Google and search engines and things like that as the net. So it's the actual thing that can capture the customer. It can capture the business. So if you don't have a business forward website, if you haven't put a lot of effort into that side of the business and you rely purely on handiwork and things of that nature, in this day and age, you know, coming out of COVID, going through COVID, a lot of you, I'm sure, resorted to remote estimates during it because you just couldn't visit sites in certain states and areas. You had to do that kind of stuff. So if you have a website that's able to take the people who are already drawn in, they go to search for gutters, the first or second option that pops up is you, and they've seen your name around town, they've seen those signs, they've seen those wraps. That kind of information is how you capture those customers. So it's a little different than just attracting, but it allows you to actually bring them in and turn that work into revenue for yourselves. So other popular ones, and this is industry agnostic knowledge, it's not 100% towards gutters. So, you know, I know that a lot of you guys aren't big like Angie users, Home Advisor. About a quarter of people use Facebook, you know, business websites, Yelp, Nextdoor, different options like that as well, because it kind of helps capture it. So few ways to improve invisibility, and Mr. Pipeline will talk about a lot of this stuff. That's literally what his whole session is pretty much about. It's really helping you guys grow that so that you guys can be more successful in your marketing efforts, in your SEO and pay-per-click and all that sort of stuff that allows you guys to capture revenue. Because at the end of the day, like everything you guys do, coming to this conference is intended to help you guys raise your revenue for your companies. You wouldn't come here if you didn't think you couldn't learn something to, at the end of the day, raise your revenue. Because that's everybody's goal. A couple kind of out of the box things that we really thought was interesting that we learned is people who share relative content doesn't have to be about your company. It can just be about the services you offer, things that homeowners relate to, problems homeowners have. People who publish and share just relative content become much more favored in the consumer's eyes. So that's why you're seeing more and more social media influencers in the world and people, you know, partnering up with certain products and doing a lot more work with just brand. Because personal brand is extremely important. Who here thinks about their personal brand? Who here has a brand statement, even better yet? One. We got one, so that's good. So not too many people have really put thought of that. Just something I challenge you guys to do. Really be able to verbalize that, because you want your employees to be able to speak to it. Like you want them to be able to speak to what sets you apart, what your company's mission statements are, and what's important to them. So just the thought process there. Update content regularly, have a link-worthy site. If people link to it and once they're there, there's nothing there for them to do. They can't schedule, they can't see past work examples, they can't learn about you or your company. They're gonna leave. They're not gonna stay on that website. So you gotta give them a way to get to you. Make it easy to convert. Don't make them do more work to be able to get the business. And then use tags. Social media is a powerful weapon nowadays. Tagging things like gutters and home improvement and basic things people are searching for will help you bump up a lot of the rankings and just get yourself in front of more people. So when it comes to researching contractors, referrals came up the most, looking for friends and family to recommend people to them. Who here has a referral program? How does yours work, Tony?
We have a couple of different ones. One of them's a referral that they get. Usually it's a gift certificate for the restaurant over there. It has to meet a certain qualification.
Sure, of course. No, simple and easy. Doesn't have to be complicated. If they're happy with your work, they're gonna do it anyways. Just make sure it's front of mind so they're thinking about it. So when people bring it up that they're gaining a little bit from it. Reviews are a big thing. Who checks your guys' Google review scores? Yeah, there's quite a few of them on there nowadays. I do that for everything I buy. If I make a major purchase, Google reviews are one of the first places, if not the first place I personally go. There's so much data that's just visible nowadays, and you can learn about everything from there. We talked about work examples real briefly a second ago when I was talking about your website. Share your work. Most of you in here do fantastic work, I'm sure, and you'll have a few statement jobs that really stand out, beautiful work that people don't see every day. Things like copper gutters or really contrasting colors. There's things you guys can share that consumers don't know about that will set you apart from the average people who just load random work examples to social media. You guys can really be targeted and think about that as well. And then online presence only plays really a small part. Like I said, that's the net. That's what captures it. When people are researching, they care more about the basics of the quality and what they're going to get out of the deal. Like I said, work examples, share this kind of stuff. Have a section of it on your website, something of that nature that allows people to really get a feel for the work that you guys do. Poll question. How long do you guys think homeowners spend researching contractors on average? The average homeowner. If they're looking for a specific project, how long do you think they spend researching before they even make their first call? Any thoughts? Who wants to volunteer a thought?
10 seconds.
10 seconds is too short. Next. A week, that's too long.
1 to 2 hours.
1 to 2 hours. The answer is 1 to 2 hours. 43% of people spend 1 to 2 hours. So I don't think I spend that long. Maybe I do, but I don't feel like I do. 23 spend less than an hour. 15% of people spend 6 or more hours researching a specific contractor job. That's a long time. It's a lot of hours you're not going to get back. Cost and budgeting. This is something that we kind of found interesting. Something I didn't necessarily think about. How many of you guys offer financing? Small percentage. So missing out on 15% of all the possible business if you don't. 15% of people rely on financing. That's how they plan to pay for every home improvement job that they do. Just something to think about. Not saying you have to offer financing. Just saying it's something that 1 out of every 7 jobs is expecting it. Yeah, go for it.
Is that all home improvements? Because the average gutter job is less than $2 grand. So.
It is. Yep. Yeah. Gutters was a much smaller percentage overall, but it is still something that it was still double-digit percents, oddly enough, when we broke it down by industries. So there's still 1 out of 10 people expecting to finance that. I mean, you guys probably all know people personally in your lives that don't have a nest egg. There's a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck and things of that nature who don't necessarily have the way to do it. If they see the importance to it, they start to have a foundation issue. They see water in the basement, they get a crack, they realize they need gutters, they need to mitigate that kind of stuff. And they know they need to do it to prevent, a $60,000 job, which is a foundation job. They're going to look for it and they may need to finance it still. A lot of financing companies don't charge you a thing to sign on with them, just to offer it. Some even charge a super small flat rate, like a 3%, like less than a credit card fee. So just something to think about, because you guys probably have a lot of check line tender credit card fees if you guys accept credit cards. I know some people don't, but it's something to throw into the repertoire just to say you offer it. We have one company who I work with closely who offers it, and they've used it once in a year. But because they offer it on their website, says we offer financing, people reach out and say, I saw you offer financing, and then they don't use it. They've offered financing for a year and they've sold one finance job. It's literally just a magnet. Allows people to come and say, they know they have ideas, they know they have options, but they don't actually ever finance any jobs. How many quotes do most homeowners solicit? This is probably something of high interest to a lot of you, because I know a lot of you guys don't want to provide material quantities. You don't want to provide footages. You don't want to do any of that because they can easily just take your quote and call 6 other people and say, how much is it for 220 feet of gutter and 85 feet of downspout? So quotes is an interesting topic because I didn't know what the answer was going to be. When I heard it, I wasn't sure. When I got my gutters, I got one quote. Person I moved into a new house, didn't have gutters, got one quote and bought gutters. So I didn't fall into this bucket. But for larger purchases, obviously people do a lot more. But how many quotes does anyone think a homeowner solicits before selecting a contractor? And I know I've talked to some of you, and some of you have 95% close rates and close everything, so it doesn't apply to you guys, but applies to the bulk of everybody else.
3.
3? 2. Heard 3 and 2. No one's going with 5 plus. 95% of people do more than one. It's really the moral of the story. The biggest bucket is 3. 55% of people do 3. 3 quotes. They get 3 and they decide from those 3. But the interesting part is that such a small percentage only do 1. I was like, man, I am in the major minority here. But 19 out of every 20 people are getting more than 1. So your quote is in competition almost every time. You're constantly fighting against, the gutter company down the road. And it's stuff that's important to help yourself stand out. It's important to know that so you can strategize against it. You want to get that closed deal, that signature as fast as humanly possible. So that way they don't have more time to shop around and do that kind of stuff. If you're able to be good salesman on site, relate to your customer, build a relationship, you can close the sale more often than not. You just don't want to give anybody else that small opening to be able to steal it from you. So how do you set yourself apart? Anyone here want to share a quick best practice on setting yourself apart from, the average other company around? Is Corey around? I know he had an interesting chat about this. I don't see him though. Showing up on time seems like a given, very much not a given. Yeah. Who else, I'm sure a lot of you guys have gotten jobs because somebody else fell on their face. Like other companies will just fail completely. So then they'll have to find a backup, which turns into your company. You guys deliver and make money off of it, right? You don't want to be the first company. You'd rather be the latter. So setting yourself apart can come in a million different ways. It can come from your sales staff, number 1, in my opinion. If your people are good, your company's going to show up good. So obviously hiring, staffing, getting the right human beings in place is super important. Talked a little bit about website, online presence, things like that. Branding of your company is a big deal. Making sure that they understand that you guys are the premier service provider in the industry and that they should feel confident going with you from the first time that you step on site. I've talked to a few of you guys who close an immense number of your jobs because you're like the only person in your area. But there are some of you guys who have said, I've got people competing bids like crazy. So it's interesting to constantly think about ways that you guys can stand out. So just kind of some food for thought, because if everyone's getting, almost everyone, more than 1 quote, you are in competition every single time. Evaluating contractors. So this is when people expect their quotes. This is not when they get them. This is when they expect them. So 7% of people want their quote on the spot. Small number, but who provides on the spot quotes for every job? 6, 7, 5, somewhere in that range. 38% next day, and then 3% said over a week, which I think they're crazy because I would have just called 3 other people by then. But yeah, 28%, of people expect their quote the same day. Even next day is unacceptable in their minds. So the bulk of people will be fine with a next day quote or even 2 days because they're not going around too deep there. Yeah, go for it.
When was this survey taken?
January?
Of this year, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's changed with the whole COVID thing, and people know that construction's backed up.
They do.
It's totally different than what it would have been pre-COVID.
Oh yeah, that's a very solid point. Yeah, and they understand that too. And I know a lot of the people know work like the actual installations will be backed up. They know that materials are a nightmare. So they understand that. This is just when they're hoping to get they're expecting to get their price for their job, so they can evaluate it against others and things of that nature. And yeah, I'm sure it may have been very different last year, But as it sits this year, this is the data that we were given from the survey, which is a lot of it's enlightening. Some of it's just, a lot of it's just kind of validation of what most of this, hopefully you guys knew or thought of a lot of this stuff already, but now it's on paper in statistics, and numbers don't lie at the end of the day. My boss always says numbers don't lie, but they can tell any story you want, especially when I'm trying to like make a scorecard look better. But shucks that around at me all the time. So be top of the mind, right? So be able to show the customer something on site or leave a tangible item behind. So does anybody have strategies around leave behinds? Anything, whether it's a pamphlet, a brochure? I'm sure Leaf Filter recommends leaving any sort of literature and things behind during their sales trainings. That kind of stuff matters because they'll see it. Even if it's just a quote sitting on a table, they'll look at it and be like, oh yeah, I still need to get my gutters done. It's something just to help them kind of get that kind of stuff. What percentage of homeowners would prefer to receive a digital quote over a handwritten quote? Another number that you think would stick out to most people, but it's right about 75%. 75% of homeowners prefer some sort of digital quote. Tablet, smartphone, text messages getting more and more popular. I'm sure that's higher than 4% in the last couple of months. At least it seems to be. Typed or printed, or emails, 42%. So 25% prefer a handwritten quote. A lot of people think in the survey info, a lot of people are saying it seems to show more professionalism, which I found interesting because they feel like the person really knows what they're doing and they're not relying on tools. But 3 out of 4 people prefer digital quotes, whether that's drawings, whether that's estimates, whether that's scope of work documents, warranties. They prefer everything digital. And this may have also changed during COVID. This number could have shot up because they got used to it. A lot of people weren't used to that before. Like you were saying, people learned to Google during COVID. Some of them did. So a lot of people before would avoid computers like the plague, but then were forced to use it. So this number obviously is going up and up as time goes too, as people are becoming more familiar and realizing the convenience of digital, because it honestly has made everything possible over the last 2 years, but technology obviously moves a lot of things forward comfortably. So couple quick things about ArcSite. You can't come up here as an ArcSite employee and not talk about ArcSite at all. That would be kind of silly. But there's quite a few of you guys who already know this. Quite a few of you guys already use it. I think we have probably a dozen customers here or so who've used ArcSite for quite a while. So some of you guys know this already, but you can create all your site plans and everything digitally on site in a way where it automatically prices itself. So some of you guys know that, some of you have visited the booth. I know you use it. Quite a few of you guys do, but it allows you to replace kind of a lot of unsure processes. So not only do you have to hand draw, but after you hand draw, you have to put that somewhere. You have to save it somewhere. You have to go back and you have to count up things. You have to count up footages, downspouts, everything. Go run through it all, figure out exactly what everything's gonna cost, put that into some sort of spreadsheet, move it through there, and then put it into some sort of proposal software, and then send it to the customer within the next day if you're gonna hit the most people. So that's essentially what we hope to remedy for the industry. It allows you to improve communication as well. So if it's anybody, this is a loaded question, and I don't want a super long explanation, but anybody ever had a miscommunication with a customer that created a bit of an issue? Pretty much everybody? Yeah, no, everybody has. I mean, if you're not raising your hand, you probably just chose and forgot about it. But the long and short of it is, it allows you to be very clear. The more data you can put in front of them the first time, the less chance they have of coming back and say, hey, that's not what we agreed to. Because you'll have pictures, you'll have markups, you'll have signatures, and I'm not saying ArcSite's the only tool out there. It's not. Evaluate them all. Look at everything that's out there for your business. There's a lot of tools that can solve a lot of problems for companies. ArcSite's just one of them. I mean, we're gonna talk CRMs and automation later today. The other Justin's gonna talk about that. And those will do a lot of the things you guys need to do as well. Pick what's right for you guys. Like ArcSite's not right for everybody. We'd be stupidly arrogant to think it was. But it does fit the need for quite a few folks, and we keep trying to make it better and better so that way it fits more and more as it goes. It allows you to do everything from uploading photos and marking those up, sharing those with customers, to even having those directly on the signable proposal. So that way they see them as they're signing. So that way they know exactly what they're expecting. And then it automatically tabulates everything. It gets rid of you guys having to go back and have all those aftercare steps. We talked earlier about the leaf filter, talked earlier about what would you guys do if you got 40% of your time back. Average ArcSite user reports a 50% decrease in site time. That's the average. They just save half their time on site. Or each job time, I should say. Site time remains pretty much the same, but each job time saves half of it because it combines 3 steps into one. And there are a lot of tools that do. There's multiple options out there. So definitely research, figure out what's right for you. If you're looking for a problem to solve, there's plenty of ways to solve it. Just make sure that you're doing your due diligence and figuring out what's what. And then the proposals, another piece that's automatically generated. We recently launched customization of proposals. You can make them look any way you want now. So we used to have, what we thought was good, and then we realized we have no idea compared to you guys. So we'll just let you guys do it yourself. So you guys can customize them any way you want. You can make them look any sort of pretty, add all your different logos, photos, any sort of organization. And then you can have multiple now. You used to have one, now you can have 3, 4, 5, 6 outputs that can be used for every different step of the process. One can be for sales, one can be for installation, one can be what a customer sees, one can be what a crew sees. Some can have pricing, some won't, because you may not want install crews seeing all the pricing sheets every time. That probably wouldn't be the best for some of you. And then it goes from there. So we also are wondering one quick thing, just to kind of throw something else out there for you guys coming. Obviously, this is the first GutterCon. We had no idea kind of what the attendance was going to be when I talked to Bren, a month ago or so and did my gutter conversation. We had no idea if there was going to be 50 or 350 here. So we decided to make it a little sweeter and just waive all of our onboarding and setup fees for anybody who attends. You can just literally just put your name on an arcsite.com/GutterCon, and that locks you into that. You don't have to buy it here to get that. You can buy it a month from now and still get it. So any waived onboarding fees, it's $800 what we normally charge. You won't have to pay a cent for anything. Allows you to get in kind of low risk free if you wanted to try anything. So a couple things there too. I wanted to go kind of quick to save a little bit of time, but I also want to leave some time now for any overarching questions. Those can be around survey results, they can be around data, they can be around ArcSite, really anything you guys think that you want to get out into the air. Does anybody have anything that they want to throw out there? No, I must have answered every possible question. Tina, what you got?
I know we talked a little bit about trying to have it sync in with some different CRMs and stuff. Is there particular CRMs that you're focused on trying to implement that with?
Yes. It's kind of tough for me to speak to those, because I don't want to have anything come across as a false promise. For those of you who don't know, I'm ArcSite's Partnership Development Manager. I'm not an account executive. I don't sell things. But at the end of the day, I work with other companies to integrate ArcSite into more places because our drawing tool can be useful in a lot of places. So I do have meetings coming up with quite a few CRMs. We already integrate with a few. But that's one of the things that I always look for from you guys is to tell me what to do in that instance. You guys know what you use. So, I can be transparent in some ways where I do have a meeting. I have a meeting next Wednesday with Jobber because I think half of you guys use that. So it's something that I felt like we needed to at least get a jump start on and talk with Stephanie over there about and figure out how to make it work. So those of you who use both, I'll be reaching out to you guys to really make sure we nail down that workflow, because I want to make sure that we're, yet again, not guessing. We don't want to know, or we don't think we know how to hang gutters and what's important in the workflow, but we know you guys do. So those of you guys using ArcSite and Jobber as is, we will work to integrate things together to make your lives even easier, because if all that data can go seamlessly from one place to another and there's no double input, that's really the end all be all goal. We already have that with quite a few CRMs. We have it with QuickBooks, of course, where it'll automatically create invoices and things for you just from your drawing. So we try to remove redundancy wherever we can. But yeah, there's probably 6 or 7 CRMs currently in motion that I'm trying to get it to work with. So if you have anything specific, just drop a note, email me, whatever. It's just justin@arcsite.com, pretty straightforward. Let me know exactly what you use, and then I can obviously make decisions from there on what's going to serve the biggest percentage. Yeah, what's up?
I got an email recently from ArcSite saying that it was compatible with Jobber, but you have to use a third-party app.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Does anybody here use Zapier for anything? Quite a few of you. So through Zapier, ArcSite integrates with 4,000 of them. Zapier requires a separate account and a monthly payment to Zapier, however. So if we do a one-to-one native integration, you can avoid all of that. It's not expensive. Zapier is like $60 usually for everything that you need to connect ArcSite to anything. Lizzie's here with me, and she's our customer success manager, and she knows a ton about Zapier. So if you have any specific questions, she'll be at the table too, you can ask. But yeah, through Zapier, we can integrate with over 4,000 different industry tools that would be able to link everything together. But we try to do some natively so that way you guys don't have to set those workflows up and you don't have to pay. So if you're already paying for ArcSite and Jobber, don't want you to have to pay for a third thing just to be able to use the two that you have more efficiently. Does that answer that okay? Okay, awesome. What you got?
On that topic,
Yeah.
can you explain what you push through the Zaps
Yes, absolutely. So through Zaps, we can create appointments. So if you create an appointment in Jobber, it can create a matching project on ArcSite with all of the client data. So name, address, everything like that. You won't have to recreate. Then when you open the ArcSite app, it'll be highlighted and say like, hey, here's the one you just created. And then when you're done, it'll push back all photos and it'll push back the signed copy of the proposal or unsigned copy of the proposal if the job bid didn't go your way. Everything into there and then save back to the contact card.
What if you're just using it for sketch?
If you're just using it for sketch, we don't have integrations available at our just drawing plans. So you have to, even if you're just using it for sketch, it'll push all the drawings and everything back in lieu of the proposal. The proposal just already has the drawing on it. So we push that because it's all in one. But if you're just doing the drawing, anything uploaded to the cloud can push the drawing over as well and save.
We're all creating proposals in Jobber, not in ArcSite.
Yeah, so I have multiple workflows in here for different people, and I know some people will get the signature in ArcSite and then just save the finished product in Jobber. But if you're just creating the proposals in Jobber, yeah, it would shove the data back over, but it's not going to push over the line items, the quantities, things of that nature. If we did a native Jobber integration, it could. So then it would automatically fill Jobber out with the linear footage of gutter and the amount of downs and all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're just looking to take the sketch and move it over to Jobber.
Yeah.
Move the client.
Yeah, you can,
Google down, Zapier.
just without exporting though, because it goes through the, do you know, Lizzie?
I think it's just the export proposal.
Just the export? So yeah, not just the sketch. It would have to go out as a full export with the sketch to be able to shove over. Cool. Yep, but yet again, something that is good to know that you want because it's something we can work on producing that way. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
So ArcSite works on an iPad.
Mhm.
I know there's been talk about something being able to do it on a PC at this time, anytime in the future. What's the timeline looking?
Yeah, timeline is fluid in app development. I'll tell you that first as a disclaimer in case any of you yell at me in a few months. But we're hoping to have an Android and Windows version out and usable. We're not exactly sure if the entire feature set will work in the first go or if it'll be more drawings, but by this summer. So shouldn't be too much longer to at least get a working drawing product out there. As far as the takeoff estimate stuff, could be end of the year for the full version, could be sooner. It's hard to know. We've run forward and had to back up a few ways and run forward again. But yeah, cross-platform development is our #1 priority right now because right now we limit everyone just to iPads and forcing guys to go out and buy iPads just to use it isn't always the funnest conversation to have. Yeah. Any other questions around anything ArcSite, anything homeowner survey report? I also want to point out that the entire report, 100 pages with all a bunch of crazy stats, I only picked a few, is arcsite.com/report. You can download it for free. You can have the entire thing. We don't charge for it. It has everything. We also uploaded it into the Hoova app as an attachment. So you guys can download the entire report and have everything, all the raw data. And I mean, it's a lot of data. So if you like data and stats, you're going to love the report. If you don't, probably shouldn't even bother downloading it. It's a lot of data. But it's tons of numbers, tons and tons of numbers. So we picked out just a few that we thought would be relative to the group here, but at the end of the day, all of that data is free to have. arcsite.com/report or right in the Hoova app, you can just download it. And it has so much information. Hey, what's up?
So you used to be in sales, right?
I did.
So whenever you were talking to, I mean, you called on probably hundreds of other companies there.
You know, we didn't do a ton of cold calling. We're kind of in a very fortunate spot to get a lot of inbound. But yeah, we called on a few. I would say we probably targeted 25 to 30 gutter companies to call on.
As far as
You were one of them, just for everyone else in the room.
as far as the industry goes, how forward thinking do you feel that most gutter companies are right now as far as buying the bills and everything?
Oh man, without insulting anyone in this room, not very. We run into that a lot. A lot of people come to us and some of the stuff we see is, I can't even tell what it is. You know, people will be like, well, this is what I do now. And they'll show me like the big graph sheet and I can't read anyone's handwriting. And I'm like, oh man. So I can't imagine that most customers like me are kind of similar, but we're starting to see more and more of a trend. And I don't know if COVID forced it or what it is, but people are digitizing more things than ever. But as far as being forward thinking, a lot of people in the gutter industry are starting to transition to a big time digital presence. I mean, the industry still doesn't have a big digital footprint. I mean, a lot of industries like roofing, if you go to roofing and go to YouTube, there are hundreds of channels, influencers, interviews. Gutters doesn't have that presence. Just don't. If any one of you guys wants to become a gutter influencer, you have no competition. But at the end of the day, it's just not something that people are really embracing the new methods as much. Do you see a raise your hand over there? Is that going to be you?
Gutter influencer, just let everybody know.
All right, sounds good. He called dibs, so no luck for you, Corey. But yeah, no, forward thinking is something that the status quo is comfortable. If you guys have done something for a long time, change is messy. People don't like changing things. If stuff works, they don't want to fix it and they don't want to improve it, right? They're like, cool, it works for me. It worked for my granddad, it worked for my dad, and it works for me. Doing it the same way. That's a dangerous mentality. It is. People who resist change tend to, unfortunately, not keep up with their neighbors in some ways. And then they also struggle to adapt to changing consumers, because consumers nowadays, the people who are buying homes now were born in the 90s. You know, I mean, they've had internet and all this crazy their whole life. It's just different. The homeowner base is different. So people expect different things. So having to match that mentality is something that people can find difficult. There's a lot of things and a lot of companies and a lot of people to help you guys do it. It's just something that may be uncomfortable at first to really start digging into search engine optimization and paying for more clicks and all this sort of stuff that can really help you guys grow. It can be uncomfortable at first because you're like, I shouldn't need this. A yard sign's great. But yeah, yard sign's great. It'll lure people in. But when they go to actually figure stuff out, if there's no resource to allow them to get to you from there, it's going to go elsewhere. So you've got to really embrace some of those new changes to be able to grow at the rate that some of you have. I mean, talking to some of you guys, some of your growth is ridiculous. But yeah, it's been a lot of interesting chats over the only 24 hours ago. But yeah, any follow-ups to Corey's question there? Forward thinking? Anyone have a comment on that? Go for it.
I think that just everybody in this room, you know, is going to be a leader in their local market just because you're here. You know, I'm not.
That is a solid point.
I'm not going to represent like GutterCon, but thank you for having us. It's ridiculous that I've been to roofing conventions, I've been to the International Home Builder Show, I've been all over, I've been to my local home shows, but just to have somewhere to talk with you guys about what are you charging per foot? How do you hire guys? How are you keeping them? What the hell is ArcSite? Like, honestly, just the idea that like there are things out here that we don't know, and every other fucking freaking industry has.
This is recorded and live streamed, just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Every other industry has a roofing convention or a this or that, but we don't have this. So this is, I think, if you just look around this room, you're going to see the people in your area that are the most likely to not only have a yard sign, but to have a digital imprint, and to have a nice website, and to have relationships with other companies in your area and outside of your area. All of that is why I'm here, because I want to be that company, and so I guess just thanks.
No, that's incredible. Yeah. See, you're already a thought leader. Your step one to being an influencer has been completed. So you're on your way. But yeah, just being a thought leader and sharing. I was talking about some of you guys, one person in particular last night about the hockey game about that. You know, there are some people in here that have ridiculous amounts of success. I mean, millions and millions spent on advertising a year. They're just crazy successful, but there's no platform to share it. You know, so something like this, you know, Bren putting together GutterCon to allow, you know, an elite group of gutter owners to get together and really discuss just thoughts for the industry to move the whole industry forward. I'm going to steal a saying from a fencing influencer, honestly. He says it all the time. He always says, the rising tide raises all ships. So one of you guys getting better and then sharing and allowing everybody else to get better and then reciprocating that back to everybody is only going to help every single person in this room. It really will. And that's just kind of a very selfless mentality to have, because there are industries, like you mentioned, roofing. Roofing's kind of that way. Little more cannibalistic and don't really like to share as far as best practices, but they have plenty of representation. But they definitely try to keep secrets more close to the chest. That hasn't been the experience with me at GutterCon this week. Everybody's been talking to everybody about how much do you charge per foot? I charge $750. Oh, I charge 12. How do you charge 12? You know, they jump up and show all these different ways of doing things. A lot of culture talk, I've heard. People talking about how they're hiring, how they're attracting talent, how they're keeping talent. You know, all that kind of stuff is very important. I guarantee, I'm not gonna ask the question, but if I asked the question about how many of you guys have trouble finding good help, everyone's hand would go up. So it's just kind of the nature of the market, the industry, employment right now. It's a challenge. So if any of you guys have that kind of stuff, share it with your fellow owners. I mean, everyone's here to learn. Don't keep that stuff close to the chest. A lot of you guys aren't in the same market anyways. Doesn't hurt you. Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, follow-ups? Anything exciting? Hey, Corey again.
So, I didn't speak up whenever you had your question about setting yourself apart, but as, you know, a lot of people ask how you can get better margins, but an app like ArcSite is one of the ways you can get the better margin, and having a good presentation will sell more jobs than the sloppy handwritten paperwork that you get. I don't use your app, you know, the reasons why, but
I do.
we would love to. There's certain things we can't use on it. But spending time with the customer is like our sales reps are spending on average like an hour to 2 hours with our customers, and it's all about presentation. And you know, I had an old guy that he was a seamless siding salesman that told me, he said, Corey, if the price is too high, your story's too short. He's like, get tell them a longer story. So that's the reason we allow our guys 2 hours. But setting yourself apart with an app like this and a good presentation means a lot, because most of our guys aren't doing that. It's, you know, I would say the majority of people in this room probably do a lot of that, but most of your competition aren't. They would be here if they were.
That's a solid point. Yeah, they would be here if they were. So the fact that you guys are here is already kind of a testament to the thoughts being the ideal thoughts, or at least the right ones. What you got?
On the side of setting ourselves apart, just so we know with this great audience, we are leaf relief, not leaf filter.
Yeah. Yes, not to be confused, that's for sure. Not to knock on anybody, but one of the main things we add to gutter libraries, maybe I shouldn't share this now, whatever, doesn't matter. One of the main things we add is people always add the service for removing gutter helmets to their ArcSite thing. So I think that, nope, I didn't think so. So I felt like I wouldn't get shot, so it was good. But yeah, no, there's not everything is the same. How many did you say there were? 218 gutter guards? Is there 219 now, or was that 218?
No, we're not a good.
You caught me. All right, what do you got? Yeah.
Just to bounce off what you said there, and I'll do this independently. We have regional managers at our company that spend 85% of the time at your offices, at contractor offices. We train your salespeople, but more importantly, we listen to the stories. Because before I even open my mouth to any of your salespeople or any of your ownership, I say, tell me about your business. What do you guys do? How do you go about determining how much you charge? Why do you get this much money here? And then on the other side of town, I hear this much money. And they vary as much as the space in this room. So guys, play off each other. I mean, I know in a way we're competitors, but if you know the amount of time that Debbie, myself, and my other regional managers spend at contractors sales training, and the stories we hear is like, well, you know, we just can't get that much money here. I go, why? Well, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Well, I don't know. Of course you don't know. That's why we're here. So we want you guys to be more profitable. We want you guys us to follow you up in a year at GutterCon, and you got a new 350 sitting in every driveway. That's what we want to have happen. And I'm sure every gutter guard company here wants to say that. We want our industry higher level, not competing with the guys that are landscaping guys, painting guys, part-time remodeling guys. We want to protect our trades. So, yeah.
No, that was a great add-on. Yeah, and Corey talked about, setting yourself apart and stuff like that, and it can come from the products you sell, or it can come from how you sell them. It can come from a lot of different ways, your workmanship, all very important stuff. Anybody, if anyone else doesn't have anything, that's really all I've got to chat about. I believe we go straight into exhibitor showcase after this. Is that correct? I'm going to hand it back over to the MC. Everyone good? No additional follow-ups, questions? Thanks for your time, guys. I really appreciate it.
Nice job, Justin.